Today's episode is brought to you by the Pre-Market Movers. Check us out at thepremarketmovers.com. We are your number one source for everything Wall Street related, broadcasting to you live on social audio platforms worldwide. You can catch us on Clubhouse as well as Twitter Spaces, Mondays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays at 7:30 a.m. to 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Check us out online at thepremarketmovers.com. That's thepremarketmovers.com.
Let's see. My wheel's been turning. That's okay. It happens every episode. You say something that's enlightening and is like, wow, okay, there's something right in front of you.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Most people, and I'll tell you what happens, right? Most people assume that because they are a minority or a person of color, through them just owning the business, it's automatically certified as minority. And that's not the case. There's actually a certifying body, which most people don't realize. And these major corporations know that. They're looking for that certification. They need that piece of paper. But once you get that piece of paper, then, the conversation is wide open, and it's, how can we help you help us? And that's absolutely what it is. Every time I've sat down with somebody from diversity and inclusion or supplier diversity, whatever the appropriate term is, depending on who you're talking to, every time it's always been, how can we help you help us? That's always the question. And that question leads to some really interesting conversations, some really interesting opportunities. And ultimately, it always tends to lead to some form of contract where you're doing some form of business. And then obviously it doesn't matter how small it starts, because there's consistency on your part. There's always more on their part.
Are you still running a staffing company first? I'm just assuming that you still run it.
So yes, I'm still in the staffing space. What I did was, the pandemic was the pandemic. I had a traditional brick and mortar staffing space. I did what I consider to be the pandemic pivot and turned that into a global virtual staffing agency. So that's actually what I operate now. OmniPro Outsourcing is a global virtual staffing agency. I have talent literally in the U.S., in Mexico, India, and the Philippines. And I take care of companies from small businesses that are doing e-commerce, Amazon stores, the Shopify stores. We run customer service, call centers. We handle chatbots and things like that, up to virtual assistants and things like that, EAs, virtual EAs, and then all the way up to IT positions in Fortune 500s again. So when he got OmniPro certified back again into the corporate space, just again providing virtual solutions. A lot of your positions aren't necessarily required to show up to work anymore, right? A lot of those positions are now remote. And because they're remote, then that means I can have resources from literally all over the world handling positions that before would have required them to be physically present to do. So that's the space I'm in now.
Is the process the same as virtual as is brick and mortar?
Absolutely. The process is exactly the same. No difference there whatsoever. The difference now the difference just comes with the location of the resource, right? Before pandemic, it required you to be physically on site. It was a brick and mortar requirement. Post-pandemic, with the pandemic pivot, now that resource can literally be anywhere in the country or anywhere in the world, which means that, you've got people accepting positions that are U.S. citizens. They accept the position, and next thing you know, they've relocated outside the country. And as long as they have a stable internet connection, they're working whatever time frame or time zone they're supposed to work in. Nobody really cares. And, I think that's going to be the future of work. I think You're going to have decentralized call centers. Obviously, you have that now. You have people working from home, answering calls for cruise lines and, home improvement stores and, things like that, law firms and things like that. That's going to continue. And you have people who are working as, they're working as contractors, but they're all working toward a common goal. So I think the future of work, thanks to the pandemic, has started to shift, but I think it's going to continue to shift. And I think we're going to see more decentralized teams and more hybrid roles come into the marketplace.
The way you're describing it is out in the open for everybody now to do this.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And that's the thing. Like now, and it's kind of what I made reference to earlier. If you want to be in the staffing space, you have to understand what's important to people, right? And again, flexibility, being able to be remote, a lot of things trump money. It used to be that money, listen, if you don't like what we're saying, we'll give you a few extra dollars and we're going to give you, we'll put extra money on here until you like us. You can't do that anymore. And I think, companies have now started to realize that. You see companies now embracing diversity more, because that's at the request of the workforce. They're embracing equity more because, again, that's at the request of the workforce. They're embracing inclusion more because that's at the request of the workforce. And so, when the workforce starts to demand the DEI stuff from corporations, they have to respond. Otherwise, you lose your workforce, you're out of business. So, yeah, I think companies, I think the future of work is it's starting to evolve, but I think it's going to continue to evolve. And I think we're going to see a lot more, like I said, a lot more remote roles and a lot more hybrid roles.
And I've done a previous interview. What's his name? Mr. Greg Williams. He was saying he believes that the entire workforce at one point, say 20 years from now, is all going to be contract. Everyone's going to be 1099 because people are valuing their time more than anything.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You've never really, 20 years ago, 30 years ago, you never heard of anyone taking a leave of absence from work because they were stressed out. Stress was just considered to be a part of the job, right? The more we paid you, the more we were allowed to stress you out. You expected the stress. Now, people take leave of absences from work because they're stressed out. And it doesn't make them weak. What it says is it makes them human, right? It says, hey, listen, I'm a person. I have other responsibilities. I'm a mother. I'm a father. I'm a husband. I'm a wife. I'm a sister. I'm a brother, whatever it is. I've got other responsibilities, and this job cannot stress me out to this point. And so people now are taking those leaves, and it's not frowned upon anymore. 30 years ago, it was frowned upon. How dare you say out loud you're stressed out? How dare you say out loud we're stressing you out? Do you see what we're paying you? We should be able to stress you out. Well, now people have pushed back on that. The workforce has pushed back on that, right? And now it's like, listen, absolutely not. You're going to treat me like a human first, not like I'm replaceable. You're going to value me as a person, right? And then you're going to value my work as an employee. And people now more than ever are leaving jobs, right? The result of the pandemic is what they call the Great Resignation. Talent is hard to come by right now because most people have decided, you know what? I value my time and my sanity over a paycheck in a corporation. There's been a huge shift mentally in the workforce, and now corporate America is having to deal with that.
I want to pick your entrepreneurial brain, your spirit as a whole too, as well, because I know you have a ton of advice for people who starting off or that's at a different level, and you have a ton of experience. So, and there's so many layers, and we haven't even touched on any of them at all. I'm assuming, let's say in today's world, because this is new. It's new. This pivot is going to keep pivoting. What are some things serial entrepreneurs today should consider during this pivot?
So consider that the workforce has become global. And so, there are two things that I can tell you about any business. One is you have to be able to scale. Every business, I don't care what it is, starts off with the entrepreneur who had a great idea, right? And sometimes it's not an original idea. Sometimes it's just the improvement on someone else's idea, but it's an idea nonetheless. From there, the work has to get done, right? Because the idea of business says we exchange a good or a service for compensation, right? There's monetary reward. So we've got to make money. That's how we stay in business. The challenge that we have is as business grows or as things become more complex, as entrepreneurs, we have the tendency to want to hold on to whatever it is that we're growing without knowing exactly how to delegate. But once you learn how to delegate, then you have effectively started the scaling of that business, right? The more you delegate, the more you scale. Now, the other part is you have to realize that the workforce is global. So what that means is as I begin to delegate and scale, I need to be able to make sure that the resources that I choose to help me scale this business are competent, but they're also not constrained. So what that means is if I have to get someone who's leading a project for me and they're not necessarily in my time zone, but they can get the job done, that's what I need to do. If I can get someone who look, I need social media management, but they're not in my time zone, but they're getting the job done, that's what I need to do. That's quite frankly, that's where our clients are now. We are, like I said, we're dealing with small business owners on a daily basis who are looking to scale. Two of the areas they're always looking to scale, social media management and project management, right? Someone's gone out, signed a project, and now they need it. You've got to hit the project milestones. Well, most of your small business owners are really good at either one of two things, right? It's never three things. So I'm good at selling the business and I'm good at, initiating like project kickoffs, but I'm only going to be able to manage one or two projects at a time. Well, what happens if you get project number 3? Hadn't thought of that. Well, if you get project number 3, now it's time to scale, which means you're going to have to hire a remote project manager and you're going to have to probably hire somebody to handle, your back office, right? Which we haven't even talked about yet. But handling back office is a huge part of what we do because, your contractors, your workforce, they have to get paid. And so, one thing we know about Friday is it comes every 7 days, which means that every 7 days on Friday, we're moving payroll for a number of employees or number of contractors because they got to come back to work on Monday and they need to be paid on Friday. And they don't have time for, oops, my bad, I forgot, didn't make it, gotcha, whatever the situation is. So, that's a very large part of scaling as well because, you have to think about that. Think about payroll. Think about, and it's not that your payroll has to necessarily be huge, but it has to be a thought and it can't be an afterthought. So, we're doing bookkeeping, accounting, payroll, invoicing, all that kind of stuff in the back office because those are the things that small business owners need. That's the support they need. So, again, if you're a small business owner and you're starting out, getting the job done, remote workforce, important, scale, important.
Depending on your business, you can scale with a couple people.
Absolutely. It doesn't require you to have 10 or 15 people to scale. You can scale with 1 or 2 people, right? It's by the time you take on the third project and you're like, I'm swamped with these other two. Well, if you take on the third project, you just hire a virtual assistant to handle project management or whatever it is, right? So that you can take that third project on, so that you can have some consistency and some growth in your business, and so that you can continue to build, right? That's a new client. Let's not say no. The answer is yes. We'll just, we'll do it through scale. Listen, I don't have enough hours in the day to handle bookkeeping, accounting, payroll. I got to invoice. You don't say no to any of those things. You just find someone like us and you scale. You say, hey, listen, what is it going to cost me for you guys to run my payroll? What's it going to cost me for you guys to handle my bookkeeping, bank reconciliations, my invoicing, my collections? What's it going to cost for that? You scale. That's it.
How would someone like, all right, I think I'm going to get a virtual assistant to help me out my business. Where's my starting point as far as searching for someone?
To plug myself shamelessly first, I'd like to think that your starting point is OmniProVA as in Victor, A as in Apple.com. What absolutely happens when people start a business is, and you have a business, you know how this goes. The first thing you think to yourself is, if I only had somebody who could do this, I could do the rest. That's everybody's thought. If I had somebody who could just do this, I could do the rest. And you think to yourself, how can I get somebody part-time? And then you think to yourself, man, I know I said part-time, but shoot, if I had somebody who could do this and do this, it would be great, right? But what's happening is, once you have the mental clarity around delegation, and you start to think to yourself, these are all the tasks I wish I could get off my plate. These are all the things that I wish somebody else could come in and do for me. If there was a way for them to come in and do that for you on a part-time basis for, a reasonable amount of money, you would do that. Well, then once you start doing that, and you're like, oh, wow, that feels so much better. What else can I, then you become a delegation junkie. You're like, what else can I get rid of? I want to get rid of some other things off my plate too. Right. Until next thing you know, you've delegated all these things, and you've got these virtual assistants, right? These VAs, and these VAs are handling all kinds of things for you. It's like, oh, this feels so much better. Well, now all of a sudden you have the ability to, hang out with your significant other, go to your kids' games. You get more downtime to do things that you actually look forward to, things that you actually enjoy, right? And your business is still making money, right? It's running, it's being maintained. That's every entrepreneur's dream, right? We just got a new client on Wednesday, and she's doing phenomenal work. Phenomenal. And when I said, what do what's your goal? She said, I want to go home and have nobody call me. She said, I just want to be able to spend time with my kids. She's got 2 twins. She said, I just want to be able to spend time with the kids. Like, I feel like I've had this business the entire time that they've been alive. And I consistently have to choose between my children and my business. And she said, and far too often, I choose my business. I take my kids with me to my business, and I do whatever I have to do. And then we go home, and she said, and oftentimes it's late at night, right? She said, I just want to be able to spend time with my kids and not have to worry about my business. I don't want to have to worry about who's not at the office doing what they're supposed to do. Got it. Right?
Mm-hmm.
She's doing great. I mean, phenomenal business, phenomenal concept. She took something that was completely necessary and literally just made a business out of it, and in a very unique way, literally has garnered the attention of the federal government. She's garnered the attention of corporate America. She's garnered the attention of some pretty big name investors. She's been on Shark Tank. She's doing tremendous. And even at that level, she says, I just want to be able to spend time with my kids. And so she's now learning to delegate, and she's learning to scale. and she's learning to remove herself from the day-to-day operations. And so that's one of the things that we're doing. She will absolutely become a business case for us, because she's absolutely the entrepreneur's dream, right? She's at the highest levels doing it. She's got all the media attention, and she has the same problems that entrepreneurs who are just starting out, who all of a sudden feel like they have the tiger by the tail. They all have the same problems, the same challenges. Shouldn't call them problems. They're not problems. She's just got challenges, and hopefully we have solutions.
I like how you articulate that. We don't have problems. We have challenges. First, is there anything you would like to say that I didn't touch on?
No, I feel like we were pretty comprehensive. I want to be clear about the website. I don't know that I necessarily was clear about it, so let me say that clearly. The name of the company is OmniPro Outsourcing, but you'll find us under OmniProVA. So it's OmniPro, V as in Victor, A as in Apple, VA standing for Virtual Assistant. So it's www.omniprova.com. Instagram is at omniprova.com. And then obviously Facebook is facebook.com/omniprova. So those are all the places to find us.
And of course, as always, we're gonna leave everything in the show notes. I like to thank you for coming on, because when I read your profile, I said, "Oh man, this is dope." Okay, yeah, let's chop it up with Ms. Owens. Awesome.
I absolutely appreciate the invitation. I absolutely appreciate the time, and thank you for the platform.
Oh, no problem. I want to have you on the show again as well, because the time is never enough. It's never enough. But
listen. You got all my contact info. You reach out to me, I'm coming.
Thank you. I'm here with Wesley Owens. This is the Entrepreneur Kickback, and we are out.